Thanks. So I want to haul ass and try to cover some stuff quickly and then get on to other people. But I went to the first two game developers conferences, and looking out at this group here, there's more people in this room than there were in the first two GDCs. And the theme of the first two GDCs was a guy named Chris Crawford who did a game called Eastern Front on the Atari 400-800. And it was about 40 whiners one year and about 80 whiners the next year. So if you're thinking the game industry is hard right now, the whining was retailers don't sell enough of my product. And I had to tell them, I'm a marketing person, retailers think their job is to put it on the shelves and pay you after the thing sells, and they don't do any marketing, so you're getting it all wrong. I'm a fan of rhetoric, and what I found is that if you have a bad lecture, wear a suit, and if you have something that doesn't quite make sense, put it in rhyme and it sounds more believable. So here you go. This is an unpaid ad. Will upside fall into your lap if you get hooked up with Clevertap? If your game is drowning in the red ocean, will Clevertap and AWS be key to your next promotion? Getting high ROAS is not like shooting sitting ducks. You need great execution and you need some luck. Loving what you do, however, is more controllable than making big bucks. And remember, as we grew the game industry 100-fold, 75% of the time investors could prove that the game biz would always suck. Okay, so I got four things for you. The first I call We're Not Dead Yet. This seems like a pretty lousy time to be in the game business. People are getting laid off. There is this red ocean. I've been through a lot worse. So some of you have only been in the games business for about the last 5 years when money was free and even COVID was good for games. Don't know how bad it really was. So in 1982, when Atari shipped a game called E.T. and shipped 5 million and got 6 million returns, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times could prove the game industry was as dead as the hula hoop. So we were the hula hoop in interactive entertainment, and it took a lot of not know what you don't know to persevere. In 1986, John Sculley, any of you who are a founder and ever feel about finding a successor, take a lesson from Steve Jobs. Don't hire a suit that the board likes. So that was John Sculley at Apple, and he said in 1986, there's no home computer market. And all the way until the iPhone, Apple proved that as far as Apple is concerned, TV didn't matter, computer games didn't matter, and meat was illegal for your children. And then Apple also was the platform for people who didn't have friends. You got to pay attention to who the chief designer is. In 1988, after Nintendo saved the game industry, at Electronic Arts, I saw John Sullivan at Toys R Us, and he said, Bing, sit down. I want to show you my weekly sales. And he had, for those of you who remember when computer printout files came like that, and there was no online desktop Excel spreadsheet. He had paper, pages after pages, and he said, look, and he turned a couple of pages to show his best-selling computer game after 4 pages of Nintendo games, and he said, Bing, your best game is doing zip codes, and Nintendo games are doing telephone numbers. That's a math joke. And then in 1993, our sales went down 30% because we had our first console trough. So any of you make games for consoles, they have 6-year life cycles. And why 6 years back in the day? Because on Moore's Law, 6 years at a double every 18 months is a 10x. And consumers think an order of magnitude change is a whole new category. Well, what it meant in the 5th and 6th year of any console, people get bored. And so we had, that was an existential crisis for us. 2008 was a financial crisis, and 2023, post-COVID, was kind of a crisis. Almost everybody, including Amazon, including Twitch, thought that COVID was just an acceleration to 2030, and then we found out it was just a short-term bump. Now, the next thing, though, I did mention investors. In the 42 years I've been in the business, 25% of those years of investors have believed that investing in the game industry was okay. So 75% of the years, nobody could raise money. And from 1983 to 1992, that was a hell no. But anyway, it's for about the last 4 years, with things like Roblox and Dapper and Activision at huge valuations, it was really easy to raise money, and now guess what? We're back to where we usually are, 75% of the time. You can't get money from anybody but your mom. At EA, a lot of the problems along the way were very self-inflicted. And so the theme of this get-together is avoid self-inflicted wounds. And if you're in the AAA business, you have all kinds of self-inflicted wounds, and the main one is you're not paying attention to understanding customers, and because you're still a B2B2C business in the AAA business, even though it's gone to digital delivery. The AAA companies aren't becoming data science companies yet. When I left EA in 2008. On the mobile front, the head of EA Mobile said, why do we care about this iPhone thing? Tetris is the #1 game on BlackBerry. It's going to be the #1 game on iPhone. It's going to be a 12% market share. We don't even have to pay attention. So how many people played Tetris on their iPhone this year? And then the other thing was the head of sales at EA. I'd been on the Amazon board for a while. And in 2008, I asked, well, how big is e-commerce ever going to be as commerce? He went, yeah, 2%. I went, wait. And how big is e-commerce of games going to be? And 2%. And I finally left EA when the CEO at the time said games will always be a packaged goods business. I think Netflix has proved that movies is not always going to be a packaged goods business, but the people who don't pay attention to the change in technology and consumer behavior are having self-inflicted wounds. So meanwhile, for those of you who have friends, I think somebody said there's 100,000 layoffs in the game business. Good news, there's no layoffs in the gamification business. In the words of Mark Andreessen, games eat the world. So here are some places that need game makers. So the education business, companies like Duolingo and Newsela, it's about a $100 billion business overall, the education business. Everybody needs game engineers, game product managers, and game designers. It's pathetic the way they make decisions, except for Duolingo. So if you're trying to self-improve yourself, it's don't play Clash of Clans tonight, play Spanish. The medical business, which is a $1 trillion business, I'm working with a couple of medical companies, and it just turns out that most humans touch the medical profession twice a year. And in the games business, in the AAA business, they touch consumers a couple times a week. In the mobile business, we touch kind of 3 to 7 times a week. And the medical business finds if they could touch people once a week, payouts are smaller. So any of you who are in the business of engagement and retention, the medical business knows how to monetize. If you're a monetization hacker, you don't need to go hang out in the medical business. You can go in the fake medical business like Calm or Noom. But that's a $100 billion business that needs people like your friends. Employment, I work with a couple employment companies, and recruiting, training, employment's about a $100 billion business that needs game makers. The dating business, nobody here goes to dating apps anymore. None of you are basketball players, right? Okay, so the dating business needs to be gamified. And the problem with the dating business is they don't have great retention. So if they succeed with someone, they never see them again. So it's a hard data business. So if you go into the dating business, I think you want to make sure that your customers wear wearable sensors, so you can get data when they're not in the app. The e-commerce business needs to be gamified, and everybody I meet, I was involved with the early days of Prime on Amazon, and everybody says, I think I'm the best Prime customer ever. Well, if you're a game designer, you go, I know how to get engagement from that person. It's what's your Prime streak? What's your Prime score? What's your Prime gamer score? And we know that stuff would work. All you need is a couple of people like you in the room. And the biggest business of all is the $30 trillion global government business. And clearly voters get gamed. There's one party that basically says, I'm not going to tell you exactly this, but if I keep gay people who live 1,000 miles from you from getting married, will you give me 10% of your money? And a third of U.S. voters say yes. It's just not put in that way. And then finally, the solution for all of us is execution. So the games as a service business has, we haven't increased LTV a lot more than the AAA business, but the games as a service business in mobile, we've increased the monetization per hour by 10x in the last decade. And that's, I guess the government has done the same thing, but and that's just through constant experimentation. So that is the art of product management, and then the engineers who built experiment harnesses so that Apple allow us to run different features that look to iOS like data, and actually is a new feature. We're in the era of the quantified customer. So if you can't add and subtract, and you're an English major like me, the Duolingo has a math app now, so you can learn about obtuse versus acute angles. There's a concept of we're in the era of the server connected customer. If you're working in a company that did not have instant server connection with customers, you probably should either change companies or find an engineer who can instantiate a real-time server connection. We're in the era of high-value actions. So we're all in the business of predicting and doing R squared on actions that'll predict some kind of future behavior. And when I grew up, CRM, customer relationship management, the state of the art was putting all customers into 5 buckets, and you just decide which of the 5 offers you make them. And we're in the infinite CRM now, if your engineers are good enough. In user acquisition, for those of you who've been in mobile, we've just reached the era of red ocean and user acquisition. We have also reached the death of free earned media. Influencers all figured out that they're just an ad platform that doesn't have to be auditable. So it's really, the growth hacking with user acquisition has gotten to be just about impossible. For a while there, it looked like Discord could be the new free model, but it's not. For those of you who are depressed about AAA, it looks to me like development costs in AAA have 6x'd in the last kind of 10 years, and freemium kind of 2.5 to 3x. And that is the death of media business when cost of development goes up a lot. The good news is if you have what we call a forever franchise, the first one of those that I came across was Madden. The first year we did Madden, a guy named Rich Hillman and I proposed to sequel it the next year, and we got told by Walmart and Toys R Us, if you make it, we not only won't carry it, we'll ship all the remainder from last year back to you and not pay you for it. And we said, you guys are stupid, because we'd buy it. And so we did it. So that's how Madden became a forever franchise. And there's a lot of lessons from the death of Hollywood. So any of you who once envied Hollywood, Netflix has now turned the movie business into a 15 cents an hour business, which is worse than World of Warcraft, which is about the same as cable TV in the US. And this is the movie business that used to be a $2.50 an hour business, not including popcorn and parking, and and first dates. Good news is.
That World of Warcraft is better than Netflix.
Yeah. World of Warcraft is way more exciting. World of Warcraft is my favorite game of all time, and I'm back to playing it again. Season of Discovery. I'm an Alliance person, and I don't like the ugliness of Horde, but I think the Horde is like the Republican Party. They're a minority. They're a minority. They're ugly as hell, but they'll do anything to win, and they're kind of more effective at it. So this is not really a political rally, but you know, if you go into a PvP Zerg against the Horde, you know if you aren't really well organized, you're going to lose. So if you're like the Democratic Party and you make bad speeches and bad platforms, you know, even though you're the Alliance and you look handsome and all that, you're going to get your ass kicked. So potential disruptions. So we all talk about AI. So if you're in a company that's figuring out how to reduce its dev cost by 1/3, and maybe as much as 2/3, you know, to get a AAA game down to $35 million in development instead of 100 or 50 instead of 150. Your company is not long for the world unless it's GTA or unless, you know, it's a company that's already doing a couple billion a year. But even something like Call of Duty or GTA in the next 5 years has got to figure out how to mid-journey themselves and GitHub Copilot themselves. I'm more excited about new categories that can be created in AI. You know, I am a fan. I go back to Ultima Online we were talking about, and World of Warcraft, where there's so many scripted characters that come to life because they've got like 5 scripted sentences. And I do think that with containers and generative AI, we're gonna have characters that have real lives, you know, on screen. So those of you who love Unreal and the renderers, you notice they're a lot like Pirates of the Caribbean and Disneyland, that the scripted characters start their script when your boat hits a switch right before the Pirates of the Caribbean scene comes into view. And when you go around the corner, it resets just as the next boat comes along. And that's the way our world games are mostly created. I mean, when you play WoW, you can see the NPC bad guy, when they first come into view, they don't react, and you know that's kind of a benefit. It makes you feel almost godlike. But you know, it's only because it's too hard to script them to do anything without bringing your RAM and your processor to your knees. I think there's going to be a whole new world of simulation and open world. So I was there at the beginning of simulations with things like SimCity and Chuck Yeager's Flight Trainer, and that made games believable for grown-ups. You know, in the early days, grown-ups say, "I've never gamed, but I'm playing a flight simulator. I'm saving money on flight school." So you know, it used to be grown-ups were puritanical about games, and you know, moms were puritanical about spending, and then we got Candy Crush, and we got Flight Simulator. The next disruption is going to be games as platforms, and I think this is going to make forever franchises twice as valuable 3 or 4 years from today as they are now. That even, you know, if you see Fortnite start becoming a world, Fortnite's going to become its own Disneyland. And if Disneyland doesn't become Disneyland, you know, Fortnite's going to become Disneyland and Roblox will become Disneyland. I'm excited about the de-siloing of the game industry. Distribution, you know, I'm hopeful that within 18 months, distribution costs are going to go about 15% from 30%. Sorry. I'm pretty excited about blockchain for game assets, so that game assets, you know, like books can always be passed along. And the whole game industry makes a lot of money on what we call breakage. I guess I should have gotten water. That's not COVID. And I'm a big fan about decentralization. I think in general that when people have agency about what they do, that everything becomes more valuable. And then I promised these guys I'd now, with the rest of my allotted 15 minutes to it, ask me anything for the next hour. So that's it for the opening remarks, and now we're going to go to combat.